If you ever try to sell, you might find yourself in a situation where nobody really takes you seriously. You might even have the best product or service in the market, but nobody wants to listen or hear your features and benefits. And why is that? It's most likely because you do not understand the psychology of selling. So what I'm going to do in this video is share with you some of the best tips I've learned over my years of experience in sales and business development on how you can take advantage of certain psychology aspects of the way people think so that you can sell more of your products and service easily. Now, before we get started, if you truly want to master your ability to sell, you want to make sure you check out my masterclass, saleslegacy.com, where we're going to teach you everything you need to know about sales, how to make an income in sales and business development, how to get started in sales from cold email all the way to closing the deal. So you name it, check out saleslegacy.com and let's go ahead and get started. So if you want people to listen, here's the thing. You actually have to listen first, and you have to learn how to actively listen. Most amateurs, and when I say amateurs, it's like people who are starting in sales, they think that they have to be loud, they think they have to be a smooth talker, they think they have to do the craziest presentation, but in reality, that's very far from the truth. The best salespeople I've ever met in my life are actually the best listeners. They're the ones that ask the best questions. They're the ones that know how to actively listen. So what do I mean? So if you say, hey John, just curious, how exactly do you do your marketing right now? Oh yeah, so we're using Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it goes on and on and on, right? So what active listening is as this person says each point, you want to do things like nod your head, do subtle cues to show you're listening. For example, yeah, I hear you. Okay, tell me more. Why is that, right? So you're asking these little questions, you're giving these social cues or these verbal cues, you're giving physical cues to show that you're basically following along every step of the way. Because sometimes when people talk, they go on and on and on, but they're not even sure if the other person understands or they listen. So what you want to do just to show psychologically that you understand and listen, and this is all happening in the subconscious, is you go, yeah, that's right. Okay, it makes sense. Okay, well, I have a question. Tell me more about that, right? So when you're doing all these things, you're actively listening. You're not just like letting information go in one ear and out the other. You're showing the person that you actually care. And once you actually show the person you care, emotionally, they actually like you a lot more. So when it comes time for your turn to talk and your turn to pitch your product and services, they have a much more open ear. They're much more open-minded because they already felt like you listened to them. So they're going to return the favor, right? That's the law of reciprocity, and also listen to you. So active listening is the key. If you don't find yourself actively listening, you're just kind of like, you're just like looking at the person, it's kind of weird, right? Or if you find yourself talking too much, if you're talking, obviously you're not listening, right? And so actively listening is the key. Now, number 2, you want to make it feel like it was their idea. So nobody likes to be told what to do, right? If I said someone, buy my software, you're messing up, they're going to be like, who are you to tell me how to run my business, right? So instead of you telling them what to do, you want to plant the idea that whatever your product and service is the solution for their problem, right? And how do you plant the idea? Well, first of all, you never directly tell them that they should buy. You want to basically plant a little seed in their head. And so when they tell you all their problems, they're going to arrive at the conclusion that they should buy your software. So how do we do this exactly, right? Which leads me to the third point, which is you want to look for pains first, okay? So we're going to combine some strategies right here. In order for someone to believe that your product and service is a good fit for them, they have to first recognize and accept that they have problems, right? People only buy based on problems, emotional problems that they have. Like, for example, if they broke a leg, they're going to go to the doctor, right? Or if they're not getting enough sales, that is very painful and they can't pay their bills. Well, that's a big problem. Are they paying too much tax? If you're an accountant, right? Are they overpaying taxes? That's a painful problem when they're paying money when they shouldn't. So these are problems that you need to identify, and how you identify them is you ask them questions, right? So let's combine these together. When you're asking questions, you're actually just probing for problems, right? You can't just ask a random question. You have to ask a intentional question that the other person feels like, oh, wow, like this person's listening, they're understanding my problem. So for example, if I'm selling marketing services, right, I would say like, hey, how are you exactly using TikTok to generate more sales? Well, we've been posting content on TikTok, but it doesn't really generate sales. It gives us impressions, but we don't know what to do with it. Okay, well, if you're spending time and there's someone posting content, shouldn't you be getting a return on investment at least? Like, why would you post it and like get nothing in return? Oh, well, we want to do it because every other company was doing it. We didn't want to get left behind and this and that. Okay, well, if I were you, I would kind of think like it's a little wasteful to do that, don't you think? Well, yeah, but we're trying our best and Okay, well, if you're trying your best, why didn't it work? And then they really start thinking like, okay, well, why didn't it work? Maybe we don't have the right expertise. Maybe we don't have the right team. Maybe it's that we never done this before and we need someone to come in and do it for us, right? So if I was like a marketing agency, this is how I would lead the potential client to come to their own conclusion on why they should buy my products and services. And so when it comes to asking questions, the key thing here is you want to get deeper, right? In the beginning, you're going to be asking surface level questions like I just demonstrated. What are you doing to generate sales on TikTok? But then as they tell you more information, you don't ask more random questions. You go deeper until you uncover the real truth of why it's not working for them. When you uncover that real truth, they're going to in their head think like, wow, this guy totally understands me. He understands my problem more than I understand it myself, and I'm the business owner, right? And so now when you're able to do that, you position yourself as the expert in your field, which is marketing, right? And so as the expert who knows what they're doing, and assuming you have some kind of track record, right? And you helped people before, they're going to be like, okay, well, how do I work with you? How much is it going to cost for you to do the whole thing for me? And if you do it for me, how many sales are we going to generate, right? So the conversation starts shifting from you trying to convince them to buy your services, from them wanting your services, but they just want the best price and they want to feel confident that they're going to get a return on investment, right? And that's totally a different conversation. And so when you start switching your frame, what essentially happens is you're able to even charge higher prices, because as long as the person believes that they can get a return on investment, your cost is essentially free, right? Because you're actually making someone money in this particular marketing example. And so you just want to remember, when you're asking questions, you want to be asking questions 80% of the time and basically listening, and you want to be talking 20% of the time. And the only things you're really saying is to set up for more questions and then eventually lead to a really killer pitch towards the end. You don't even pitch that long. You just pitch a little bit, and then you basically tell them like, hey, so what do you want to do next? What's the next step? Do you want to move forward or not? And that's pretty much how the sales goes. And then I'll give you one more tip when it comes to pitching, right? This is something I've been using a lot recently, and it's been working really well. So instead of you telling them they should buy your services like I've been talking about, what I like to do is I like to put myself in their shoes, right? So if I'm talking to a CEO of whatever company and I'm a marketing agency, I'll be like, hey, if I were you, this is exactly how I would do it. I would post more content, I would run more ads, I would do this, I would do that, and then in return, I would get more revenue, right? It's like saying, if I were the CEO, this is what I would do with my marketing skill set. And they're gonna think like, okay, well, this guy empathizes with me, he understands, he's obviously an expert in marketing, so there's clearly a way for me as a CEO to make more money if I work with this person, right? And that's how you're basically able to say to someone what you want them to do without telling them to do, right? Because a business owner doesn't want to be told what to do. They want to be their own boss. But if you come from the perspective of like, hey, if I were you, this is what I would do, then they're a lot more open to it. So when you combine all these things together, what ends up happening psychologically is, number one, you're actively listening. You're showing the person you care. They trust you a lot, because this day and age, nobody knows how to listen, right? It's a superpower to learn to listen. Number two, you make it feel like it was their idea, right? And how do you do that? Well, you look for pains. You ask questions, you go very deep into what these problems are, and then you plant that seed of how they're able to solve their problem using your services. And then from there, if you really want to hammer it home and really paint a clear picture on what it might be to work with you, all you got to do is say, hey, if I were you, this is exactly what I would do. And then if you explain it well enough, they're going to be like, okay, well, you're not me, but what would it take for me to hire you to help me build my business or grow my business, right? From that point on, assuming that you actually have a good service or a good product, it's kind of selling itself, because you clearly demonstrated that you understand their problem, you can solve their problem, they're confident in you, they like you as a person, they can imagine what it would be like to work with you. As long as the cost is right and they see that they're getting more value from the cost that they pay you, it's a no-brainer for them to want to employ you for your services. Now, if you want more tips on how to master the art of psychology in sales to get people to buy anything, make sure to check out my masterclass Sales Legacy, where hundreds of people have been through this course to get some of the best jobs at tech companies, consulting companies like Salesforce, Oracle, HubSpot, you name it. This training has worked in so many different industries as well. So if you want to check that out, check out the masterclass Sales Legacy. My name is Patrick Dang, and I will see you in the next one.